All right, next up in your book is Splitting Hairs with Refine Mask. And we see we have a picture of a sunset and a picture of Dina. We're going to follow these directions straight from the book, like I said, to learn the basics and make sure you understand how to fix anything if you're not getting the results you're looking for. So open Dina and Dina's sunset, and here's the sunset picture, and here is Dina. So first thing we're going to do is our goal is to put her on a new background. So we're putting her on the sunset. One thing I want you to notice is that she's pictured up against a white background, which could make it really easy to select her, but there also is this real harsh shadow over here on the left-hand side. So be careful when your selection comes through that you don't let the shadow become part of her. So first thing we're going to do is select Dina. I'm going to make the quick selection tool, and I'm going to make sure to stay inside of her hairline. Come on, what is going on here? Quick selection tool, get bigger, there we go. All right, so I'm gonna run the quick selection tool around her. There we go. I want you to notice that the marching ants stay inside her hair and just these flyaway hairs are not included, and that's perfect. We don't want these included now, we're going to fix those later. So the quick selection tool does a good job. We're going to have to make this brush a little bit smaller and take care not to get this shadow. And we're going to get rid of it however proves to be easiest. But I'm just going to use this tool. I'm going to hold down Option. I'm actually going to push that in a little bit. I'm going to try to get in here. Ugh, boy, that's not working very well, is it? So plus adds, minus takes away. Just don't want that really hard shadow there. There we go, that's looking better. Oops. All right, I'm gonna take away the rest of this. Oh my good gravy. I'm sure you guys love watching my screw ups here. All right. No. Come on, snap over to that side, please. Take away this. Getting there, ever so slowly. There we go. I think I'm going to be happy with this now. There we go. So subtract out of here. All right, I have my marching ants around Dina, and we're all good. One thing I failed to do is we were supposed to drag this onto the other image, so let's see if we can do that yet. Unlock it, and let's see if we can move this. I hope I don't have to start over. That would crush me. Because I didn't do this first and I don't want to lose this selection, I'm going to put a mask on this before I drag it over. So I'm going to click on the mask button down here, and I'm going to take this with me. So I'm going to move her onto this, and we'll see if the mask comes along. If it doesn't, yep, it did. Okay. So I'm going to put her in the center here, off to the side a little bit. Okay, so we have successfully brought her over. Some of the issues that you can see is that where we can see through her hair, we're seeing back to a white background because she was on a white background. If this were taken as a real photo, we would expect to see this where we could see the sunset behind her hair. So that's what we need to address next. All right, before we move on, let's rename this file. So save as, and we're going to call this Dina Final. And it's going to be a Photoshop document, PSD with layers. All right, from here, when we click on our layer mask, we see the properties of the mask showing up right here. We see the black and white mask, the density, the amount of feather around it, but then we have some other options. We have the option to select and mask, and that's the button that we're going to click on. And that's going to give us a new view. And we can see this in a variety of different views. So up at the top, the view that we're seeing right now is it on white with 20% transparency. So we can view it on onion skinning, on marching ants, on a red overlay. We can see it on black, on white. We can see the actual mask, or we can see it on the layers. And this one can be helpful, I think, because you're seeing how it's really going to look with the interaction of the layer behind it. So just click away to get rid of that. We're going to view it on layers. And then we have a few different options here. So there are two sliders. We can see the radius, and then actually we have more than two now, but the radius is the first one. Density, let's look for that one first. And they have renamed everything from our book. I just want to make sure yeah, it has been renamed. So let's just look at what we have now. We have the refine mode. If we twirl that open, here's what's new in Photoshop 2021. Object aware is the only way that it ever worked, and it would be aware of what your object was compared to the background. And because she was on white and now she's on blues and pinks and reds, object aware will probably work just fine. Sometimes, however, they're on a similar background, and as an object they don't stick out enough. So this color aware option is another version of refining your edge. So I'm going to keep it on object aware. Okay. Object aware, and then this edge detection. We're just going to start pulling this, and I want you to see what happens as we pull our radius. Come on, computer, work with me. There we go, starting to work with me. 7 pixel radius. Okay, do you see how it's getting fuzzier like this? But look what it did. That radius also is down here where we don't really want that. If we turn on Smart Radius, it's going to make better decisions, and that's too big of a number for sure. So we're going to pull this back, pull it back, pull it back, and somewhere in here, maybe a couple pixels out, we like what we're seeing. All right. The other thing that we have within this toolbar window, or within this window, is we have a whole new set of tools over here. You notice most of our tools are gone, but we now have some new ones. So if we hover over them, this is the quick selection tool, refine edge, the brush, object selection, lasso hand, and magnifying glass. So what we want to do is take the refine edge brush, this one, and bring it over here and watch what happens. As I paint around the edge, do you see how some of her hair that's out here is showing up now? But watch what happens when I let go of my cursor. And the brains of my software have time to think, which of course takes forever. You guys have probably already seen the results on your computer 1,000 times over. There we go. Ah, there we go. So do you see how, even though I painted way out here with white, it knows that there needs to be some degree of transparency here. So I'm going to do the same over here, only where I know there's hair. So sometimes it's wise to look at your initial picture and make sure that you are only brushing where you have hair, or where you want transparency is probably the better way of looking at it. She has hair here, but it's not transparent. So we would want our mask to be hard white here, but transparent white wherever we want to see these fringy flyaways. So right here we need to do a little something too. Let that go. So this is the refine edge. There we go. We see her hair and some see-through to it. So if we're happy with that, and I think I am, we can then come down to some options at the bottom. Decontaminate colors. So if you take a picture on a green screen background, it often throws a bit of a green color cast to their hair. And you would want to click this button before moving on if that were the case. Because she was shot on a white background, we don't have that problem. Finally, output 2, we're going to choose a new layer with a layer mask and say OK. And what happens is it deactivated our original layer mask completely, but it made a new one with a mask around it. And I want to show you what this mask looks like. Do you see how it has the transparency around her hair? And that's exactly what we want. What we don't want is transparency on her arm or maybe up here at the top of her head. So wherever we don't want this transparency, we need to paint with pure white or pure black rather than having this edge being transparent. I think this did a really good job of, I think it looks quite good. It looks great over here on the right. A little icky over here, but we could maybe paint in a little bit more white here. But I think overall it's pretty good. This is a problem. There should not be a black blob here. So I'm just going to pop in here and I'm going to paint with, whoops, with white. Right there. Up on her shoulder here, we shouldn't have transparency. I should be in a hard brush now. So we don't need transparency on her shoulder. All right, the rest of this is, oh, whoops. Okay, we do want that transparency there. So it looks better. It's not perfect yet. We can see that it's kind of a little too light. So the fringe pixels, we want to fix up that issue as well. So we're going to add a new layer above this, and we're going to name it Fringe Pixels. We're going to change this to a blending mode of color, just like we did with the bear. We're going to clip it, so hold Option, and when you hover between the two layers, we're going to clip this just to the layer below, which therefore will behave with the masking. It will honor the mask. We're going to select our brush, and we're going to option click up in Dina's hair to kind of sample her hair color. We've got a new color here, so depending on where you click, you'll get different colors. And now we're going to paint over these white fringes with the fuzzy edge of our brush. And we're going to have a little bit of a problem here, but let's just do it to see how this works. So we're painting, and I'm trying to do it just over the fringe pixels on the edge. I'm not getting any effect. So color mode converts a pixel's hue and saturation to match the foreground color, but it leaves the luminosity. So that worked for the bear. We don't have a hue or saturation problem here. With the bear, we were trying to cover up green with brown. Here, we do have an issue, however, with luminosity. So we need to change our blend mode. Instead of being color, we need to change it to multiply. And watch as I'm doing that, what we're seeing up here. Oh boy. Let's go to multiply. And I think you can guess that we need to drop the opacity way down. And I should have only painted with this on the fringe pixels. You can kind of see I gave her helmet here, right here. So maybe, I don't know if we can improve this at all over here, but it's getting better. So the fringe pixels, painting with brown using a multiply blend mode. All right, looking much better. Still kind of has a weird glow to her though, I would have to say. Let's do a file and a save at this point, and we'll move on to do some final improvements here.